Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Authentic Man podcast with me, your host, David Chambers. Back with another mini episode. I know these ones are getting really popular. I think various people message me on Instagram or email and tell me how they're helping them and how they're taking advice. So they will keep coming. Though I do make a request, if there is a particular topic you'd like me to cover in these short episodes, please drop me a message on Instagram or email. I'll give them to you now, actually, while it's the beginning, at the Authentic Man _ on Instagram, and hello at theauthenticman.net by email, because I'm always open to new suggestions. I use a lot of what comes out of kind of coaching, or the things that kind of come out of my coaching sessions with men that I'm working with. And, like this episode around, how we can kind of tune out of our anxious and fearful thoughts and instead take action towards, what we really want. This is something that's come up a lot around the men I'm speaking to, especially particularly single men who are wanting to date and are finding that these anxious thoughts, the thoughts of, catastrophizing what could happen, maybe it's, speaking to a woman in a bar, maybe it's progressing some dates, maybe it's being on a date, the mind just takes over, the ego, the fear, the worry, these thoughts take over and stop us from able to be in the present moment and just enjoy and just be in the moments of being with the person that we're with. So one of the first things, we'll start this, one of the first things you have to do is just feel the feelings that are coming up. Just be with them. If you're feeling anxious, you're feeling fearful, this could be, even if you're sitting now and you can bring to mind something you're worried about when it comes to dating, or maybe fearful. And that might be, like I said, going to talk to women in bars. Maybe it's, messaging women back when it comes to dating apps, or it might be organizing dates or being on dates. So just imagine that now, the scenario, and just, imagine for a moment what it feels like to feel this way. And then just kind of identify where you're feeling that feeling, and maybe even give it a label of, anxiety or fear or worry or stress or anxious, whatever feels right for you. And then the next part is to just inquire, if that feeling existed and had a voice and could speak, ask that part of you, what it needs. Ask that part of you, how is it trying to keep you safe? And you'll be really surprised. You'll be really surprised to find you can get an answer. We'll come back and say, I'm trying to protect you from, getting hurt or being shouted at or being called a weirdo, whatever it may be. Yeah? Or being criticized, being attacked, whatever it may be. There's going to be some wisdom there. It's trying to keep you safe. And the next part of the process is to say to this part of you that you're an adult now. You're a grown man, you're an adult. You can deal with whatever is going to come and you can overcome it. And ask that part of you if it's willing to allow you to take over. I trust you to do this. And if that part of you still doesn't, feel safe, ask that part of you what it needs to feel safe. It's a really important part. So, what do you need to feel safe? What do you need to feel safe to go into this voyage, into this new thing? And often you're going to find, after a bit more dialogue like this, you're going to find that this part of you really wants connection, right? But it's afraid because at some point in your life, in your past, this sort of connection you seek led to pain. And it's just a case of you really acknowledging that in yourself and going, yeah, that happened way back and this is why I feel this way. But also acknowledging that was way back then. This is not this reality that you live in now. You are an older human being in some way, man, woman. You are more wise, more understanding, more connected. And the next part of this process is to really connect with the positive emotion that can come from this endeavor. So say, for instance, it is, organizing a date with a girl. Connect with the positive emotions. So maybe for you, that is excitement, fun, and passion, right? You just, feel it in your body. And really amplify that, because what we've been doing, and maybe you in particular have been doing, is you've just been focusing on the anxiety, the worry, and the fear. and completely ignoring that there's all this beautiful emotion of like passion and agency and want and desire inside of this pursuit that you want to go. Like I said, dating, relationships, as often in our dating lives, really get stopped by this, and connect with that emotion. Yeah. And just create a bit of a positive imagination of if you were to act from that emotion, if you were to act from that place, what the outcomes would be. And just imagine it, just let your imagination go. It's not has to be this way, has to be that. And again, you're going to probably come to really beautiful visualization, of fun and playfulness and enjoyment and connection and deep conversation and fun and, all those things. Probably said fun about 15 times there, but that's fine. And you're going to start feeling this in your body, right? You might even start smiling as you imagine this one. And then you just say, what actions I'm going to take from this place? What actions am I going to take? What action am I inspired to take? Because when you think from this place of this positive, fun, love, joy, passion, connection, there's obvious action for you to take when from this inspired place. And you got to stay in that emotion of that inspired place, but just connect to the action. Because ultimately, the process can end now, and this is me just talking. Ultimately, what happens with a lot is that we want to do something, we want an end result of some type in our lives. And then all that happens is that some feelings come up and we decide we don't feel like it anymore, or we're scared or so forth. But actually what we want hasn't changed. And our feelings, blow hot and cold like the wind. One day you feel like burgers, the next day you don't feel like burgers. What's changed? In reality, nothing, just your feelings. So ultimately, your feelings can't just guide you constantly through life. And I talk a lot about emotions and the importance of them because they do have an importance. They can be a very positive driver for us. They can give us signposts to some things in the past that have happened to us that, we need to resolve. But ultimately, in a day-to-day basis, a lot of the times our emotions just steer us away from what we really want, what we really desire. And this little technique I've shown you here is just for you to tune into what you really want, And you can do this in a much slower process. Like, when I do this with clients, this might take 20, 25 minutes. And it's really beautiful because you realize that, actually, this fear is actually just trying to help me in some way. There's a positive side to that. Cool, thank you. You can bless that side of you. You can say thank you for the wisdom. And then you can choose to connect to a different feeling, different emotion, a higher goal, a higher feeling inside of you. And when I say all this, I don't mean that any emotion is better than any other, but I use positive, negative, just because these are the kind of accepted terms for emotion is much faster. But this is where you start to be able to really step into your power of taking action, because you can start making conscious choices about what you're going to choose to do and where you're acting from. And this can sometimes be difficult, right? Especially when you're alone and maybe, it feels like, it feels great in the moment. And then you're like, oh God, but I don't know, I wanted to do this thing. And then the feelings come back and they stop you. And this is where like accountability becomes really useful. Like I have my own coach. I have my coaching clients, and they, I hold them accountable. If they say they're going to do certain things, I'm like, the next week that we speak or so forth, I'm like, hey, how did that thing go? Or I might even say to them, hey, you said you're going to do that tonight. I will be in contact with you tomorrow. And as much as you might hear that and think, oh God, that sounds a bit scary having someone do that. That's how everything gets accomplished in life, having accountability. So it's really important to create accountability where you can, whether that is with yourself, holding yourself to your word, or finding someone, a coach, a therapist, a healer, whoever that may be, to hold you accountable, because it's important to do that, because, we cannot rely on willpower alone. Willpower is one of the worst things to rely on. Structure is what you need. People that are going to hold you to the things that are most dearest and most important to you. And it's why, this is where friendships can come in as well. Relationships, like, even my partner also, she holds me to the things that I say I'm going to do, or the things that I really want to be in life. And without those sorts of structures, we don't get anywhere. So I highly recommend you give this little exercise a try. You can do it in the short form that I've said here, or, something longer. But, just the kind of absolute boils down to is listening to the negative, the heavy emotion, the thing that's stopping you, asking you what it's trying to tell you, asking it about the wisdom that's there, thanking it for the wisdom, telling that part of you that you're safe, that you can look after this, you can handle this now as an adult. and then tuning into the positive emotion and seeing what outcome would be created if you acted from that place, and then choose a next action to take. And it doesn't have to be a big action as well. It doesn't have to be like, oh my God, I'm going to, go outside and, I don't know, go and woo 50 women. It could just be going outside and smiling at people as you walk down the street, just being a source of happiness and love towards the people you come across. So it doesn't have to be huge things. And sometimes these actions, the small actions, are the best ones because they take us a little bit closer. The big actions can sometimes also handicap us because we take a big action, we try and take a big action, and we perceive that we fail at it, and it makes us recoil again. So a small action is still an action. Every week I put out a podcast, that's a small action. Every week I record one, that's the small action that gets to the bigger action. So that's how we get anywhere. And it sounds very methodical and stuff. And, there's definitely a spiritual element in this as well, is in faith. Believing. If you don't believe that, you have the resources to deal with whatever fear you have, is having the faith that you can. The blind faith that you as an adult now can deal with things. You've got over stuff before and you can get over it again. And that's a really important part, is to have the faith that you can, even if you don't have any evidence of it. Even if you don't feel you have any evidence of it, but I'm sure you do. If you spoke to someone and they would, ask you a little bit, you'd have the evidence that you can get over hard things that you didn't think you could deal with. So having that faith goes such a long way. And it might sound super like spiritual and woo-woo, and hey, fuck it, I'm pretty spiritual and woo-woo, so I'm not even going to defend that. But it's like having faith in yourself, gets you so far. Everyone that's accomplished great things in their life had some faith in themselves, even if they had no reason to believe it. No reason to know that, that faith would lead them anywhere, but they kept believing. They kept having faith in themselves. So that's the end of this podcast episode. If you enjoyed this, I'd love for you to give me a review, and just a review actually on Apple Podcasts, because it goes a long way, and I haven't seen anyone doing one for a little while, so it's always good to know. And I know there's more and more listeners of the podcast every week, because I see the numbers, I see how popular these small episodes are. So, please review and share it with someone who is struggling with taking action and getting out of their head and getting out of their anxious thoughts. So people, until next week, until next mini episode, ciao.